This is the Money Radio Network.
Welcome to Fast Turtle, Digital Marketing Pros. Tune in to learn the latest tips about Google search, social media disruption, paid media, and how to transform your business with ROI-driven digital solutions. Now, here are your hosts, Eric Olson and Graham Ware.
Well, welcome everybody. Eric Olson here. Graham, welcome. Another beautiful day here.
It is.
We got an exciting show. We've actually got Brendan Van Zyl, Director of SEO over at Fast Turtle, on with us today. Welcome, Brendan.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for joining us. And I know we've got Rand Fishkin on the line, and we'll get to him in a second. Just for our listeners, Rand is actually the co-founder of Moz SEO, of Moz. So Moz is a software and service company based in Seattle, Washington. They're really the end-all, be-all when it comes to online marketing, internet marketing, the local, and they really focus in on inbound marketing and marketing analytics software subscriptions. Rand, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Graham and Eric. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Well, I know we've got a lot of questions, want to pick your brain. You are a whiz when it comes to SEO, and just obviously one of the most well-known people out there speaking across the country and across the globe on search engine optimization, what's going on out there. Graham, what questions? Where should we start?
Yes, awesome. So thanks again, Rand, for joining us. You know, it's a testament to your character to take some time out. We know you're really super busy. We are huge Moz fans. You know, my first kind of, I guess, obvious question would be, and I'm not going to get to the yellow shoes yet, but I will talk about, you know, obviously being one of the biggest influencers in the digital marketing industry and how you've built that up. You know, you kind of came into it in, I think, 2003, 2004. You know, you're known as the Wizard. So I guess in 2004, I believe, can you kind of help us understand and our listeners understand, you know, how did Moz kind of evolve? Where did your passion kind of come from? And how did you take all this on?
Yeah, sure. So I hate opacity. I hate secrets. I really despise people and organizations that kind of try and cover up the truth. And I think I developed that, you know, sort of anger and frustration probably pretty early on in my life. And when I was starting my professional career as a web designer, we were working with some SEO folks, and actually we were running a terrible business at the time, you know, always on the verge of bankruptcy. And it got to the point where we couldn't afford to pay our SEO subcontractors for work that we promised to clients. And so I had to take on those, you know, tasks myself. And as I started to dig into the world of SEO, what I realized is that it was very secretive at the time. The search engines were incredibly tight-lipped, if not outright misleading, which I think maybe you could still say in some aspects today. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that I was going to start this blog, initially called SEO Moz, and then changed to just Moz. And that blog was all about trying to make the search engine's operations transparent and accessible. So, you know, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And my mission is to organize Google's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And so that, you know, that blog turned into something that a lot of folks in the field followed. And out of that was born a software company in 2007, and we raised a few rounds of venture capital. And I was CEO of the company for about 7 years, and then stepped down a few years ago. And today I'm an individual contributor and a board member, and yep, to your point, an evangelist.
Yeah, awesome. And where did the I guess naming convention Moz come from, or you know, Moz,
sure.
SEO Moz? People have always asked us about that.
Yeah, so you might remember that in the early 2000s there were actually a bunch of Moz organizations. Only a couple are still around. Mozilla Foundation was one of the early ones, and they're the makers of Firefox. there was also DMoz, the Open Directory Project, and Chef Moz, the Open Recipe Search, and MapMoz, the Open Mapping Project. And so I thought, well, I'm going to make the Open SEO Project, SEO Moz. And of course, a lot of the other ones died. I think AOL just shut down DMoz recently. And, Chef Moz, MapMoz, a bunch of the other ones had died many years ago. And we got the Moz.com domain name, so that's where that name comes from.
That's awesome. And, you and I are pretty much the same age. I really definitely can relate to, your earlier comments of just the passion for, seeing an industry that has it was very secretive, not very transparent in many regards. So I definitely am on the same page and admire that about you as well. So having said that, Moz has certainly grown exponentially over the last, you call it, 10 years. And you guys have some core values, that I believe is called tag fee.
That's right.
Transparency, not just about public, but also internal transparency, authenticity, being yourself at work. I guess, in the startup, and you were recently on CNN, and this was really awesome, and I really do commend you for doing what you did. There were also several other huge people and CEOs on that bit as it related to the startup culture and what it kind of grooms, in terms of not only the pressures of VC in that, but can you kind of expand upon maybe your experience, with the startup culture and how the culture with Moz today, the transformation of that and dealing with the millennials and all the younger guys like us, who look up to you, how do you kind of manage that or what does that look like, in your world?
Yeah, gosh, let's see. So broad question, but so the CNN piece was specifically about, I think, how some of the startup world's pressures and biases drive many, many founders and executives to have a lot of mental and emotional issues. And, in American culture, at least, it's pretty, I think this is shameful, but it's pretty unacceptable for men specifically to talk about this openly. Like men are supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be tough. We're not supposed to have feelings. We don't get emotional. We don't get depression. We don't get anxiety. But of course we do. And we get it at very similar rates to, women and to men in every other country. It's not, and it's not shameful, right. And it shouldn't be. It's just a cultural issue that we have. And certainly I think that, I don't know which way the causation runs, right? And I talked about this on the CNN piece a little bit. It could be the case that many people who are predisposed to having these types of issues become founders of companies, right? They also feel pressure to want to build their own things or to, do things their own way. Or it could be that, the pressures and the demands of the startup world create a lot of that stress that drives, people into anxiety and depression and dealing with these issues. But since, I'm someone who went through it and wrote about it publicly, Laurie Siegel, who's the reporter from CNN, asked me to be on the piece. And I thought she did actually a really thoughtful, open-minded analysis and really did her research, talked to a lot of people from different sides of this issue, people who are coaches and mentors, people who've been through it, people who, have lost people to suicide. Yeah, I don't know that you can always say that about CNN, but I think they did a great job with this piece.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I totally agree on that. And obviously, for our listeners, if they can go ahead and check that out, I know I watched it over on YouTube. You can just do a quick search on Google for that piece and learn a little bit more on that. We are speaking with Rand Fishkin from Moz, and we'll be back after these breaks.
You're listening to The Digital Pros, powered by Fast Turtle. Get your free digital assessment today. FastTurtle.com. We'll be back after this short commercial break. Now back to Fast Turtle's Digital Pros with your digital wizards, Eric and Graham.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We have the delightful Rand Fishkin of Moz on with us today, talking all things digital, and we were just talking a little bit about the pressures of startup and kind of the effects that it has, and Rand coming out on CNN and kind of talking about that. It's something I can certainly relate to on a personal level with anxiety and all of that. So as I said, Rand, I definitely appreciate and respect the courage it took for you to do that. Having said that, as Moz continue to grow, and as you have all these millennials that are kind of coming up, going back to that tag fee, kind of your core values, how did you guys kind of mold that, and what are the biggest challenges? I guess it's a two-part question. What are the kind of biggest challenges you see, as it relates to maintaining that culture at Moz?
Yeah, I think it's actually incredibly hard. Tag fee, these are our core values, and you mentioned them: transparency and authenticity, generosity, fun, empathy, and the exception, as in the exception to the rule. Those are things that we try to live up to, but I would say we don't always succeed. Maybe even we rarely succeed, right? It's sort of we strive to be these things, and we know we're imperfect in that striving, and that is okay.
Yeah.
I would say that in terms of the difficulty of growth, one thing that I've definitely observed is that at smaller company size, so Moz, when I co-founded it with my mom, right, there were two of us.
Yeah, the Wizardess, yes.
Yeah. So my mom, Jillian, was actually my co-founder in the business, because she was who I was doing web design work for back in the day. And communication is really, really simple, right, between two people. It's actually really simple between 5 or even 10 people. Everyone just says what they're doing. Everyone knows who the right person is to go to with any issue. You know each other personally and professionally, and so there develops this sort of empathy for one another. You're able to put yourself in other people's shoes, and you understand, like, oh gosh, Matt's really busy tonight. He's, his mom is sick. He has to drive down to Olympia, whatever it is, right? Like there's empathy for that, as opposed to when you get to a certain size, and you get into different distributed teams, that communication starts to break down. It becomes much more formalized so that it's more efficient, because there's too much to try and say everything that everyone's doing in the company. And so you have to have this, sort of professional distance. And as a result, things crop up consistently. And, I think Moz is probably better than most on this, and yet we still experience these issues of, the engineering team is frustrated with the marketing team, who's angry at the local sales team, who has their issues with the finance team, right? And it's not, once you dig into these things, you find that no one's evil and wrong and doing bad things for bad reasons, but everyone sort of has a tough time assuming good intent, especially when, repeated things go wrong or don't go the way they wish they would. So I think that's the most difficult thing about a growing organization, is the communication and empathy distance that's formed over time.
And now, did your mom kind of help you with learning that and embedding that as you were starting up? Is that Mama Moz speaking, or is that true?
That's a good female perspective.
I think that a few of Moz's core values absolutely come from my mom. Generosity is one that she is, was always big on as kids when we were growing up, and certainly fun as well. I think that through a combination of sort of how she acted personally and professionally, right? Like family life and home life, and because obviously she raised me and my brother and my sister. My dad was there too. He was I would say a fairly active dad for the 1980s and early 90s. So a bunch of those values are really my values. In fact, Moz's values, tag fee, was created by my wife, Geraldine.
Yeah.
She sort of wrote them up. She knows me better than anybody, and was sort of like, this is what Rand cares about, right? This is who he wants this is what he wants his company to be. So yeah, I think for me, the personal and professional cross a lot of boundaries, obviously.
And you're absolutely right. I know you're involved even in charity outside. I think you contribute, or you have some involvement with what is it? See Your Impact. That's a nonprofit, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. That they're based in Seattle, and then I donate a lot of the so many speaking events. Offer an honorarium, and I usually donate that to a project called Give Directly, which is they fund sort of they give money directly to poor people, cash, with no restrictions or requirements, and often with exceptionally good results. And I love that project in particular because lots of people think it's going to go terribly, right? Like people assume, they'll just spend that money on drugs and alcohol, because they're, poor people, and in fact, nope. They usually spend it on like homes and education for their kids and growing their businesses, and it's very efficient. So
that's really, really cool. And obviously, when you're not spending time with your wife, are you still big into football?
NFL. I've been struggling. I think like a lot of Americans, I've been struggling with the issues, around concussions and around domestic violence and around the NFL's sort of focus on commercialism. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was a little tuned out this season, to be honest. And that was the first time in probably 15 years that I haven't watched every game I could watch.
Yeah.
So it's sort of weird. I read an article about how Americans are tuning out of NFL football and, how they're losing audiences for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God, I'm one of those people.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. You and me both. I didn't do fantasy this year, so I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, crazy.
It is crazy. Well, we're heading into a break, and definitely appreciate your time, Rand. We'll be back after these quick messages, and thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Digital Pros, powered by Fast Turtle. Get your free digital assessment today. FastTurtle.com. We'll be back after this short commercial break.
Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house. Morning comes and you know that you want to stay. Close the blinds, let's pretend that the time has changed. Keep our clothes on the floor, open up champagne. Let's continue tonight. Come on.
As the sun goes down, doesn't matter where we are.
Now back to Fast Turtle's Digital Pros with your digital wizards, Eric and Graham.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Graham Ware, Eric Olson, Brendan Van Zyl from Fast Turtle, and we are talking to Rand Fishkin from Moz. In case you haven't been listening or just joined us, definitely feel free to check out Moz, moz.com, as well as you can follow Rand. Rand is at Rand Fishkin, RandFishkin, on Twitter. And then definitely feel free to download our iTunes podcast as well as check out our website at fastturtle.com. To listen to the segment as well. So, Rand, kind of heading into, I know one of the big events you have coming up is MozCon. You're probably preparing for that. Ollie, I know, was on our segment. Ollie Gardner from Unbounce, who absolutely loves everything Moz, loves the relationship he has with you. So can you talk a little bit about MozCon? What are the benefits of going? What do you guys have going on and plan this year?
Yeah, sure. So MozCon, we've always tried to make it a little different from the standard, search conferences in the industry. And when I was coming up, search conferences were a huge way that I sort of, built Moz's brand and made a lot of the connections that I made. And that's, those conferences and events are how I sort of, figured out what the industry was talking about and, got my first speaking gigs. a few things that we do different at MozCon. So most conferences and events have multiple tracks. So, you can go to room A or room B or room C, and there's different speakers in each one. MozCon is all single track. All the presentations are keynote style. So there's no, panel of 4 people with 12 minutes each to talk about, specific subjects. And we sacrifice, of course, a little bit of diversity of opinion about a particular topic potentially. But I think what you get back is more valuable, which is sort of this curated experience of, hey, we think this person in this presentation are absolutely sort of the best, most actionable, most useful information that you'll find. And, we can sort of cheat a little bit on that. I mean, one of the things that I definitely do is, because I attend so many events and so many people from Moz attend lots of events, we keep a running list of the best speakers we've seen, in all the cities and events around the world. And then we just invite the 25-ish or so very best from each year to come and speak at MozCon. So Ollie had a couple of incredible, blow you away presentations on CRO last year. And the MozCon selection committee was like, all right, we got to get him.
Yeah.
I think another thing that MozCon can do that's sort of a cheat code is it doesn't have to make money, right? So MozCon costs about $1.2 million to put on, and that's pretty much exactly covered by attendees, the 1,600 or so people who buy tickets, and the a few sponsors who have booths. And because we're a software company, we don't really need the services revenue that comes from an event, and so MozCon can basically spend $1.2 million, right? All the money that comes in, which means, we can provide a generally much more luxurious event experience, and that's around, the food and drink that's available, and the after parties, and the space itself, and the quality of the Wi-Fi, and which, by the way, the Wi-Fi is almost $250,000 by itself.
Oh wow! Holy cow!
Which
that's crazy.
Just conference Wi-Fi for 3 days for 1,600 people.
Yeah.
Turns out digital marketers use a lot of bandwidth.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Go figure. Well, Rand, one of the questions I have, just for the people that are joining us or listening in, MozCon, where is it? When is it? How can someone learn a little bit more about it?
Yeah. You can go to moz.com/MozCon or just search for MozCon in Google. Hopefully we rank for it. If we don't, then you shouldn't come. If we don't rank for it, you shouldn't come because, come on, SEO people. But it is, I think it's July, 12? No, it's a little later this year. We do it in July because that's the absolute best time of year to come to Seattle. There are like 3 days without rain, and those are July 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Perfect.
I'm kidding. It'll probably be raining. But you should come anyway. 17, 18, and 19. It's in downtown Seattle at the Convention Center.
Perfect.
Very cool, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of people to learn. Like you said, a lot of the thought leaders that you have speaking provide a lot of great information. So, like Brennan, by example, I know he's got questions with respect to the Penguin integrated into Google's algorithm. Brennan, do you want to expand a little bit upon some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rand, one of the big struggles that a lot of SEOers experience in their day-to-day duties here is negative SEO. Previously, it used to be really easy. You could go to some of these different third-party sites, such as Fiverr, and actually purchase a massive amount of spammy, bad-quality links and point them to some of your biggest competitors, and just watch the cookie crumble per se. Now, Google's been really kind of updating a lot of their different algorithms, and this wasn't by any means a recent algorithm update, but we all know that Penguin was actually incorporated into the core Google algorithm. Now, with that particular update happening on Google's end, in your opinion, is negative SEO still a factor?
Yes, it is, but very, very it's even harder than it was before, and before it was so hard that I would say out of, let's say I looked at 100 cases of where someone said, negative SEO is affecting me. 99 of those cases that was not true, right? They had done something themselves, or they just didn't have enough, competitive factors to rank well against the other folks in the SERPs, or what have you. I think it is still possible, and there are some folks who still engage in it. I think, the folks I know in the sort of gray and black hat world have said, yeah, they made it a hell of a lot harder. It's way more expensive and much more of a pain in the ass, but it's still possible. It's even tougher with more established sites. I think with newer sites, it's a little easier to still trigger Google into thinking that, this small upstart with very few links is engaging in schemes and those sorts of things. But most of the common practices, like just going to Fiverr, is not going to work. What you really want to do. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to tell you what you really want to do to someone.
Yes. Thank you. We are 100 white hat.
But regardless, what I would say is I wouldn't stress as much about it. And 99 times out of 100, if you think negative SEO is happening to you, it's probably something else. So I would exhaust every other avenue before I'd pursue that one.
Okay, absolutely. So is Moz actually still continuing to monitor its clients' backlink profiles then and taking proactive measures to disavow any bad quality links that they see kind of slip through? Or is this something that, Google, for the most part, is catching the majority of the bad links kind of automatically and removing those links there from their index?
Yeah, so one quick correction. So Moz is software only. We don't have any services or consulting. So we are not the proactive monitors or disavowers. But yes, many consultants and agencies use Moz's software to monitor their backlinks. And Moz has a spam score that a lot of folks like for, helping to sort and filter backlinks and determine whether, hey, are these sketchy domains that I should probably disavow or not. I would say that yes, many folks are still using the disavow, and I think Google's representatives have said, yes, if you know that you have bad links pointing to you, you still should use disavow, which to me suggests they know negative SEO is still possible, right? And certainly I guess they also have the motivation of wanting more data for their machine learning systems around spam, right? But the crux of that is, I would still recommend doing that. Maybe once a quarter, going through your links, seeing if there's anything that looks real sketchy, or if there's been a huge influx of bad-looking links. Yeah, go ahead and disavow those.
Awesome. And, you were mentioning the spam score ratings, and just for our listeners that are not aware, Moz has an incredibly invaluable tool available through a browser extension known as the Moz Toolbar that shows, different ratings for the website. In essence, they cover domain authorities, page authorities, that spam rating, as Rand was mentioning. So if you're unfamiliar with that particular toolbar, it is a free extension. I highly recommend you go out and actually download that. And another quick question, actually, about that Moz toolbar specifically, Rand. Back a while ago, you guys actually used to pull in social signals into that particular toolbar.
That's right.
And it was a valuable resource for me, especially when breaking down a client site and considering, positive social signals per se. I'm not seeing that information in the toolbar anymore.
You are totally right. So Facebook made it much more difficult to go get their social data scores, the number of likes that a particular page has, or those kinds of things, or shares. There is an API that we've been looking at through a provider called ShareCount, but it is technically against Facebook's terms of service, so we could get into trouble by providing it. So we're not sure. Facebook might be the one that's available. Twitter took theirs away entirely, so there's no more counts. You notice all those blank boxes that no longer say how many tweets have happened on URL. I personally think that was one of Twitter's dumbest moves. I think that gave Twitter a ton of visibility and credibility. I don't know what they were thinking taking that away. It certainly couldn't have cost them that much in terms of engineering bandwidth. And it was this great free distribution system. But Twitter pulled that, so those are no longer available. There are a few tools. Actually, I'm saying a few. There's only one that I know of called BuzzSumo out of the UK. And BuzzSumo what they do is if they have a URL already in their system, they will track all the tweets they see to it. So they'll give you a rough count, but it's not the same as all the tweets. It's just for the URLs they've seen, for the tweets they've seen, they'll try and count those so you can get a rough approximation from them. And we have talked to them about an API, but when we told them the number of people who we needed to provide scores to, they were like, yeah, our API can't handle even a tenth of that, so no. Yeah, that was, the Moz bar is very popular. I think it has, 400,000 plus folks who've installed it, and obviously SEOs visit a lot of web pages every day. Yeah. So a ton of requests coming back. But yeah, it is frustrating that social data, was pulled by Twitter, made more inaccessible by Facebook. Google Plus sort of died, so that probably doesn't matter as much. But yeah, not ideal.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Rand. We are going to head into a quick break. Hopefully our listeners are getting some great, valuable information with Rand Fishkin from Moz, and we will be right back.
You're listening to The Digital Pros, powered by Fast Turtle. Get your free digital assessment today. FastTurtle.com. We'll be back after this short commercial break. Now back to Fast Turtle's Digital Pros with your digital wizards, Eric and Graham.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Eric, Graham, and Brendan here from Fast Turtle, and we are joined by Rand Fishkin from Moz. He is the true wizard. So thank you, Rand, again for being here with us.
Yeah, sure.
We were talking a little bit about the Moz bar and the toolbar that a lot of SEOs use to measure kind of PA, DA. Rand, what's kind of your take on social signals? Obviously, Google's making a lot of adjustments, with voice search and AI and ML coming out, and even the augmented reality and apps and things of that nature. Do you think social media, the influence of social engagement and things like that, will have an impact on rankings?
Indirectly, yes. Directly, no. I think Google hates signals that they can't completely own and control, and social signals are one of those, which, I think that's why the case for Google Plus was so effective internally at Google, right? Because they were like, hey, if we can get people to adopt this, we can own it, we can control it, it can be this great thing. Obviously, I think that the execution of that was not great and in lots of ways. Right. Although Google Hangouts came out of it, which is awesome. Yeah. So we'll take that. Because of that, I think that Google they want to understand what's happening on the social web, and they want to be able to measure that data and use it in their algorithm. But I think my opinion is that they're using that based on visit data and engagement data and device data, and tracking, large amounts of. So, for example, if something goes truly viral across Facebook or Twitter, I think that Google is able to see through Chrome and through Android and through the Wi-Fi and Project Fi and all these other things that they do. I think they're able to see a ton of that data and traffic, and they can use that to, improve their ranking signals. I don't think they go, oh, look, this got a bunch of Facebook likes. Let's rank it higher.
Yeah, gotcha. No, that makes total sense. I think definitely agree with that. I know Brendan had a couple questions on some more PADA stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. So another thing that obviously your Moz toolbar does calculate there is the domain authorities and page authorities for different pages as well as entire domains across the site. Now, we also know that Google kind of has a separate system, right? They determine their authorities here through their RankBrain. And what I'm kind of curious to find out is your system, being a third party, and how it measures that data. What factors is the tool actually gauging, and how closely aligned is your tool to, the RankBrain system of determining a website authority rating?
So for RankBrain, BA and PA are totally useless. Not even a tiny part of RankBrain, right? Because RankBrain is a query interpretation system. So RankBrain is basically saying, hey, this person searched for best mobile phones, and this person searched for top-rated cell phones. And we actually think those results should be really similar. So RankBrain is essentially interpreting the queries, processing those, and then saying, hey, return the most relevant results for the intent of the user's search, not just their exact keywords. And Moz we do not currently try to do anything that, processes queries in a similar way and shows you, which results are the same. There's a little bit in Keyword Explorer that'll sort of show you like related terms and phrases. But PA and DA, what they're really good for is being similar to how Google might use link signals specifically in their ranking algorithm. So, we cheat. We're not Google. We know we don't know what's going on there, and so we totally cheat. We take all the link metrics we can find and think of that we've seen in, patent applications and raw link metrics like link counts. We have a thing called MozRank, which is similar to PageRank. We have a thing called MozTrust that's similar to TrustRank. And then we take all these things and we plop them into a machine learning system that learns directly against Google's own rankings. So we crawl a bunch of Google search results, tens of thousands of them, and we say, this is your sample set. Now, machine learning system produce a number that most highly correlates to how Google ranks things based on these link signals. And I think we use around 35 different link signals. And then the machine learning system spits back a number that has a relatively high correlation with Google's rankings. And that's where you get PA and DA scores.
Awesome.
Understood.
Nice.
Thank you.
Rand, this is Eric. I've got a question. We've done a number of segments on AI and machine learning and what that really looks like for search rankings in the future. I just want to get your input on, what do you think AI and machine learning how will impact the way websites are built in the future?
So I think machine learning is already impacting search results today, like in huge ways, right? Google clearly made this leadership shift in the search quality team a few years ago, and I can't remember, the names of the gentleman who was pushed out and the guy who was replaced. But basically, the previous guy was like, I don't like machine learning for search rankings. We can't see inside it. We don't understand. No engineer will really understand why something's ranking where it is, so we can't debug. So we're going to keep using manual signals. And he was pushed out by the leadership and essentially replaced by someone who was previously the head of Google's machine learning team. And so I think now you're seeing far more ML involved in the systems, and that, I think that's good for results quality. I think where it gets troublesome is if someone from Google, a Google representative, gets on Twitter or they stand up on a stage or, make a blog post and they say, this is how this works. I think we should all sort of be like, yeah, but do you really know how it works? Right? What it is it's a bunch of different signals that are crunched into a machine and then, these things are spit out, but you can't really see or dissect the innards of that. And so seeing how ranking signals interplay with each other is much more difficult, even for someone inside Google, than it's ever been in the past. And, RankBrain, I loved Paul Haar's quote. Paul Haar, one of the Google engineers on the search quality team, who said, we don't fully understand how RankBrain works, which is awesome, right? It's like, hey, we have this thing. It controls how people see the world's information, but we don't really know what it does. Yeah. So as far as AI goes, I think that's a different story. AI, in my opinion, at least as it applies to Google, the biggest, most obvious one that I can see that's going to impact is predictive intent. So that's the thing where you're leaving work and it's a Friday afternoon and Google sees that you are someone who has previously through Google Maps visited bars, usually bars that have billiards, right, pool tables. And so they automatically recommend to you, hey, here are 5 bars in your neighborhood with good happy hours that are open now that have pool tables, right? And so they're like predicting the thing that you're going to want. I think AI, from Google's perspective, is really about being that almost like a personal assistant, but creepier.
Yeah, that'll be hugely beneficial.
Very big for ad targeting too. Well, Rand,
exactly.
Rand, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate your time, and definitely we're huge Moz fans. Hopefully, we'll see you at MozCon. Are you going to be wearing your yellow shoes?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. All right. And we definitely, if for our listeners, tune in. Rand actually runs a Whiteboard Fridays, which is awesome. We definitely watch that every Friday. So you can Google that. And as Rand said, if it's not coming up, then don't listen to him. But it does. So he does have it. Thank you again, Rand. And thanks to everyone at Moz. We definitely appreciate everything you guys do.
Oh, well, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.
You've been listening to Fast Turtle's Digital Pros. Discover how SEO, PPC, and social media can grow your business today. Call 888-468-8785. That's 888-468-8785. Not sure if you need help? Get your free digital assessment